Hello everybody, this is Lauren Harpster from Bead and Blossom. I am back again with my Learn French Beading Beginner course, and today we are doing lesson 5, which is the basic frame technique. Now if you don't learn this technique, you are not going to get very far with French beading because this is the most commonly used technique. I've made here 4 samples of some leaves to show you the 4 basic shapes that you can make with the basic frame technique. Now each of these leaves has 9 rows of beads across, and the starting row in the middle, which is called the basic row, is 10 beads long. The only thing that changes to make the different shapes is the angle at which you wrap around the axis wires that are above and below that basic row. For a pointed bottom or top, you will use a 45-degree angle wrap. And for a round bottom or round top, you will do a 90-degree wrap. When you're working with a pattern, you may see some acronyms like RBPT, and that will tell you the shape that you are making. Basically, what you need to remember is that R is for round, and P is for pointed, T is for top, and B is for bottom. So here we have PT, or PTPB, so pointed top and pointed bottom, RBPT, so round bottom, pointed top, RBRT, so round bottom, round top, and then PBRT. For the sake of keeping this video brief, I'm going to be demonstrating this leaf here so that I can show you both the 90-degree wrap for a round and a 45-degree wrap for pointed. But I do recommend that you go and practice these other shapes as well, which you'll do just by mixing and matching those angles. Okay, so I've got some 24 gauge copper core wire strung with size 11/0 seed beads. And this is a 0.5 millimeter for those of you on metric. And the first thing we need to do is to construct our basic frame. We need to get everything set up and ready to go. The sample pattern that we're going to be using for this demonstration is a 9-row basic frame, 10 bead basic row, round bottom, pointed top, and we're going to reduce to 2 bottom wires once we're done. So the first thing you need to do is your basic row. And the pattern said 10 beads. So we're going to count out 10 beads from our spool, and we're going to slide them up to about an inch or so below the little loop in the end of our wire. Now this is the basic row. This is row number 1 when you are counting rows for a basic frame. All of the other rows will be wrapped around it. Alright, so we're going to need some bare wire below, and we're going to fold it and cross it over right below the basic row. Pinch and hold both the basic row and the long end of the wire there in one hand very tightly, and then with the other hand we're going to twist the 2 wires together below that basic row. Alright, then we got to straighten this out a little bit, and the best way to straighten a basic frame is just to grab by the top wire and by this little loop and to just tug in opposite directions, and that will straighten it out for you. Alright, so let's go over the parts of a basic frame here real fast because they will probably be referenced in patterns that you're working with. Now, of course, we know that these 10 beads right here in the middle is the basic row, row number 1. The wire here above the basic row is the top wire, which is also called the basic wire. We have our working wire, which is still attached to our spool, which should be connected just below the basic row. And then this twisted wire down below is the bottom wire, which will become part of your petal stem wire. And then you have this little loop of wire down at the bottom. Alright, now let's wrap some rows here. We've already got row number 1 here in the center, so we're going to wrap row number 2. So we're going to bring down beads from our spool onto our working wire, and we're going to hold the tension on our beads to make sure that no gaps form between as we're wrapping our row. And we're just going to fold it up directly beside row number 1. And we're making a pointed top, so we're going to cross over that top wire there at a 45-degree angle. Right there. And we will measure the beads we need to reach that top wire. Now notice how I'm holding this piece. I've got it pinched between my thumb and forefinger right near the top there where I'm going to be wrapping. This gives you a little bit more control. It also is going to hold that new row of beads in place while you wrap, so it won't move around. So we're going to wrap our working wire now around that top wire to secure the second row. And we're just going to go around the back and then cross back over the front. And as you're coming back over the front, you want to angle down, making a 45-degree angle with that basic row. So there's row number 2. I'm going to move more beads up for row number 3. And I'm going to push them all the way up over that top wire to cover it. I'm going to rotate my work here because it is a lot easier to work on the top side rather than trying to wrap weirdly like that. It's awkward to do. So just go ahead and rotate your petal. And again, we're going to measure out our row. We're going to lay it directly beside the other side of our basic row. Again, no gaps. Pull it in tightly. You can pinch and hold your petal like this and pull it in tightly if you need to try and get them as close as you can. And we're doing a round bottom, so we need to make a 90-degree angle. We'll cross our working wire over the front side, of our bottom wire. Measure the beads that you need to finish out that row. Double check to make sure you're covered up here. And we're going to cross over at a 90-degree angle with that bottom wire. And then with round, either round bottom or round top, I like to use my thumbnail as a little anchor. And I'm just going to wrap that working wire around the bottom wire there. And I'm doing that same pinch and hold right there near the top to both hold that row in place and to give me more control. And there we have row 3. Alright, so we're going to move more beads down for row number 4. And what I like to do is do a little lift and push. This helps get your beads all the way down on top of that bottom wire there. If you don't cover this wire, you're going to end up with some wire seams showing in the middle of your petal. You may not be able to cover it all the way, but just try and do your best. So lift and push to get those beads all the way down on top of that wire. And then I'm going to rotate my work again. And I'm going to mold my rows close together. And again, we're making a pointed top, so we're going to cross over the front of the top wire, making a 45-degree angle. Measure the beads you need to reach that top wire. And I'm going to pinch and hold that row in place. And I'm going to pull pretty hard to make sure that my wrap is nice and tight there. And again, I'm angling downward as I come back over the front to make a 45-degree angle with that basic row. And then I need to move more beads up for row number 5. And again, I'm going to rotate. And while I rotate, I'm going to mold that row to that outer edge. And we're making a round bottom, so we're going to cross over the front of the bottom wire at a 90-degree angle. Measure the beads you need to reach that bottom wire. Use your thumbnail as an anchor as you wrap around, maintaining a 90-degree angle the whole way around. And we are ready for row 6. Pointed top with the 45-degree angle. Now if you do end up bending your top and bottom wires out of place, if they start leaning, you are going to want to fix that before you continue. So you can do that same trick I showed you at the beginning. Just grab that top wire and that bottom wire and pull in opposite directions. And that should help straighten it out. You do want to check to make sure that your wires are straight. Otherwise you will end up with a wonky petal. So we're on row number 7 here. Round bottom, 90-degree angle. We have 2 more rows. And 45-degree angle there at the top to make a point. .90-degree angle at the bottom to make round. And there we have a 9-row basic frame, 10 bead basic row. So we have all of our rows completed, and we need to tie off our working wire here. And to do that, let me see if I can get it a little bit closer here. All right, to do that, we're just going to wrap that working wire 1 or 2 more times right below where we wrapped off that last row. And you do want those wraps nice and tight and close together. So we're reducing to 2 bottom wires, and what that means is that we're just going to leave these 2 wires that make up our bottom loop, and we're going to remove this working wire. That's very simple. We'll just cut that working wire very close to where you've tied off. And there we have reduced to 2 bottom wires. Now what I like to do is I like to twist these 2 together just a little ways down. You don't need to go all the way down. And then I'm going to cut them to different lengths. As you're twisting these wires here, try to make them as smooth as you can. Any lumps in this stem wire will transfer to your flower stem, which will make your flower stem not as smooth. And also that's the reason why I don't twist all the way down to the bottom, is so that I can minimize the space that has any amount of lumps. And then we're going to clip that top wire short, about 1/4 of an inch. And then you just fold it to the back side of your petal and press it down really well. Alright, so this is what the back side of your petal is going to look like. If you've wrapped correctly, all of your exposed wire wrap should only show on the back side of the petal. And the front side will look like this. Sometimes when you're working with basic frame, you will need to have more than just 2 bottom wires. This is especially going to happen when you're working with petals that are really wide or really long, because they need more support so they don't flop over. So you may see some patterns that say to use 3 bottom wires. I'm going to show you how to do that. So when I constructed my basic frame, I twisted this bottom wire here clockwise. However, when I made this last row here, I am wrapping counterclockwise around this bottom wire. Now if I were to just twist this working wire into this wire as it is right now, it's going to make a lot of extra lumps in my wire, which will show on my finished flower stem. So instead, we're going to open this up. If you have any twists, untwist it. And try and smooth those wires out if you can. And then you're going to bring your working wire right down over the top and smooth them out. And then you can twist them all together. Make sure that none of the wires are lumpy at all. Make sure that they're all straight when you twist, so that you'll get nice, smooth twists. And then you can cut from your spool and open up your loop. Alright, so this leaves you with 3 wires at the bottom, which will give more support to a heavier leaf or petal. Okay, so just like some of the larger petals that you'll make, we'll need 3 bottom wires. Some of the smaller ones don't need as many, so we can get rid of some of these bottom wires to help keep our flower stems a little bit more slim. To do that, we're going to first make sure that our working wire is tied off as normal, and we will just cut it off like normal as if we were reducing to 2 bottom wires. And we got to get rid of one of these bottom wires here, so we're going to have to open up any twists that we have down there. And we're going to very, very carefully snip just one end right below where we've wrapped off our working wire. And that is how you reduce to 1 bottom wire. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that the fewer number of rows you have, see if I can get in closer to show you, the fewer number of twists that you're going to have between the bottom of your basic row and the bottom of your petal. So I don't recommend reducing to 1 bottom wire if you only have 3 rows of beads. Now that's because if you only have 3 rows, there's only maybe 1 twist holding your whole petal together, and it will very likely fall apart on you.